Tonight's story is called The Crow and the Pitcher. A pitcher is like a jug of water or a glass jar or earthenware jug or jar or something you would put a liquid in. That's a pitcher. It's called not picture, not like a picture on the wall, but a pitcher. Pitcher. Say pit. Picture. Yep. And now say what's on the wall. Picture. Yeah. On the wall we have a picture, and here we have a pitcher. Pick or pit. Pick on the wall. Pit is the jug of water. Picture. Almost the same, isn't it? So it's the crow and the pitcher. A pitcher of water or milk or whatever. There was once a clever crow who was cunning and wise in everything he did. Crow could crack open a nut just by flying high in the air and dropping it onto some hard stones. He didn't even need to use his beak. Crow would never go hungry like the other birds and could always find tasty treats for his supper. Simply by doing a little dance on the soil, Crow could make the worms pop up to see what was going on. The clever bird had a very good brain indeed, and he knew how to use it. Then, one day, Crow needed to be cleverer than he had ever been before. It was a hot, dry summer's day, and Crow had been having a lovely time flying about. By the afternoon, he became very thirsty, and all he wanted was a cool drink of water. Crow flew over the hills and fields looking for a pond or a stream to drink from, but he couldn't find one anywhere. Soon, Crow was nearly ready to give up. "I don't know where else to look," he said with a very dry throat. "There isn't a drop of water to be found anywhere." Just then, Crow saw a cottage far below him, and flying closer, he suddenly spotted a table in the garden. In the middle of the table was a tall glass pitcher of water. By now, Crow was even more thirsty, so he swooped down to take a closer look. When Crow flew down to the table and tried to stick his head into the neck of the pitcher, he found that it was much too narrow for him to take a drink from. He almost got his head stuck. Still desperate for a drink, Crow perched on the table and stared at the pitcher. He could see that the pitcher was only half full of water, and it would need to be full all the way to the top, so that Crow could easily dip his beak in to take a drink. What do you think he's going to do to make it fuller?
The stones.
And what will he do with the stones?
He'll put it in here.
What in the pitcher?
Yes. And they'll go up.
And then make the water rise, won't it? Because
What's
To rise goes up. Something which rises goes up. Like when you bake a cake, the cake rises. When you bake bread, you start with a ball of dough, but it gets bigger and it rises. So something which rises goes up slowly. The sun rises in the morning. When you get out of bed, you are rising. Mummy might say to you, arise and shine. So something which rises goes up slowly. Now, where did I get to? Crow hopped around the table with his head cocked on one side, thinking for a way to reach the water. Then Crow noticed that the path leading up to the cottage was strewn with tiny round pebbles. This gave him an idea.
This is like a ball. This looks like a round pebble.
It does indeed look like a round pebble. As you can see, the path is strewn with pebbles. When something is strewn with, it means there's a lot of them scattered in a random fashion. It's strewn with pebbles. So Crow noticed that the path leading up to the cottage was strewn with tiny round pebbles. This gave him an idea. Crow hopped off the table where the pitcher stood and picked up one of the pebbles. Flying back to the table, he dropped the pebble into the pitcher. It fell to the bottom with a plop. Then he went back for another pebble and another, plopping them into the water each time. Each time Crow dropped a pebble into the water, it took up space. The more pebbles that Crow dropped in, the more space they took. Soon the water began to be pushed up to the top until the pitcher was nearly full. And it was nearly full enough for Crow to take a sip. "It's working!" he squawked, hopping up and down, flapping his wings with excitement. "I'll soon be able to drink," Crow said. He worked all evening, filling the pitcher with pebbles, and eventually Crow's task was done. "This is the moment I've been waiting for," Crow said, and he put his beak into the neck of the pitcher, where he could finally reach the water. He drank and drank and drank and drank until he could drink no more. Finally, he lifted up his head and gave a great caw. That's the noise that blackbirds make or crows make. Caw! He lifted up his head and gave a great caw of relief. Problems can always be solved by looking around and making the best of what you've got, said the wise Crow as he took to flight once more. He flew back to his home, fully refreshed, delighted with how clever he had been. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Can you tell me another story?
All right, another one.
In this story, because of many